Greetings everyone, DFG here, Gideon's Flight. Hey guys, it's been a while since I've did a video, pretty intentional, just due to, I guess, just taking some time for some clarity and getting through some family related issues. I know some of you guys remember the video I did on the passing of my brother, and just taking some time to reflect on that situation and everything that came about concerning it. And I do want to thank everyone who expressed their well wishes, and I even want to respectfully respect some of my family members who had some opinions concerning some opinions I had that they shared with me indirectly, personally, and whether I agree or disagree with those feelings, I do respect their right to have those feelings and understood why they would have felt that way. So that saying, I just want to move on. I want to take just a couple of minutes of your time, and I want to talk a little bit about the Parkland shooting. And this is the shooting that happened in Florida. I think it was this past Friday. I think it was Thursday or Friday. I think it was Friday. I'm not sure, but everybody's aware of that. But I want to take some time and talk about how the shooting is being portrayed, you know, and unfortunately propagandized through the media. You know, first, you know, my heart goes out to all of those families, and who could not be, you know, saddened by such a serious event such as that. You know, and you know, as someone who suffered loss of a child, I understand, you know, how heartbreaking that is. And so again, I say this with all respect to those families, and quite frankly, this has nothing to do with those families. This has more to do with what I'm going to share is around the propaganda that's being, you know, leveraged at the expense of those families, and even at the expense of some of the students there, to push an agenda that, to me, is missing the point. And I'm talking about here gun control. So stay with me. Some of you guys I know who are anti-gun, you know, people. I get it. I respect how you feel about that. But I hope to plead to your intelligence by saying, okay, to have the best argument, hear both sides, you know, of an argument versus just one side. That way you get the very best, you know, not only opinion, but you can stand on that opinion a lot stronger if you've gotten, you know, as much information as you can get from both sides of a, in this case, a gun control argument. Because where I definitely believe that responsible gun ownership, you know, is paramount, I also believe that, you know, we could be getting caught up in, you know, I'm going to say, you know, majoring in the minors, for lack of a better expression. And what comes to mind is I remember back in the early 90s, and there was a presidential debate going on between George Bush Sr. and Bill Clinton. Bush was running for his second term, and Clinton was running for his first term. At the time he had just resigned from being the governor of Arkansas. And I remember through the course of the debate, George Bush talked about, you know, the Desert Storm victory that America had experienced, and the importance of the military. And I think there were even some things that came up that he spoke about in terms of, you know, pro-choice and different things along that arena. But what George Bush didn't seem to understand was that America was going through a recession. And he spoke to everything but the economy. And I remember when the camera went from him doing his disposition, you know, how am I saying, what's the word? Well, when the camera went from him, you know, sharing his insights around what he felt America's challenges were, it went over to Bill Clinton. And Bill Clinton went right at him. He said, you know, I will tell you what the biggest concern is with the economy. I mean, with the country, it is the economy. And I remember how that, you know, it turned the whole, it reshaped the whole debate in itself. And it turned from, you know, someone who had an opportunity to get, you know, reelected to, quite frankly, Clinton just coming out of nowhere and just, you know, just knocking Bush right out, because Bush missed what was really going on. He was so focused on, as they say, the minor issues, that he did not really get the heartbeat of what was the major concern of American citizens. And at that time, it was the economy. I bring that up because now when we start talking about, you know, responsible gun ownership and who can have access to guns, and whether or not the Second Amendment truly protects our rights around guns. Well, the Second Amendment does protect our rights around guns. And America was founded upon the principle that we would not have a government of where we would have tyranny, as opposed to, true, independence. And America, or Americans then, knew that in order for them to be truly independent, that they had to be in a position to not only to defend themselves, from a government, but also to use, the strength of the people to keep the government in check, and replace that government, even if it meant replacing that government by force. Now, thankfully, that's not the mindset today. But back then, 300 years ago, that was the mindset, or about 250 years ago, that was the mindset. That if the government got it wrong and refused to get it corrected, then the people would correct the government. And the Second Amendment rights put them in position to be able to do that, if they absolutely had to have that happen. Now, I say that around the Second Amendment and your rights to own, responsible gun ownership, registered guns, responsible, being, and accountability that goes with that responsible ownership of, the weapons of your choice. Now, does that mean that, people should have AR-15s? I don't know. If the military has AR-15s, again, that's debatable. Me, myself, personally, I think you should have what you feel comfortable with. And I know that could get extrapolated, and we can get into, well, should we have, hand grenades or nuclear bombs? I get it. I'm not ignorant to those, to how this conversation, can go forward. But what I am saying, and this is the whole point, so thank you for listening for 6.5 minutes, all right? I appreciate it. What I am saying is this, is that the young people today are being shaped by the culture of today. And just like it was the economy then, I remember them telling, I think there was these commercials afterwards saying, to George Bush Sr., it's the economy, stupid. What I'm saying to you guys today, that it's the culture. Anytime that you have a country that's permitting violent games, violent movies, violent videos, and we've seen some of the rap videos where these guys are walking around with, mask on, guns and gang signs and talking about murder and mayhem. And I know some people don't want to talk about that, but it's still the truth. We have a situation where that a friend of mine was looking at, what were the top 10 video games being sold in this country. 6 of the top 10 video games were games of war. You follow me? Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, that kind of stuff, where it's real aggressive, hostile. And our young people can have as easy access to that as they can have for guns, yet no one is talking about what's shaping the minds of these children. And not only that, but it's you, some of you anyway, the parents that are putting these games in these kids' hands under the name of, well, it's just a game, it's just innocent. Well, it may be a game of just innocent, but if you let somebody take and consume themselves hours of every day, and hours and hours every single week, don't you know at some part, that's going to start resonating in their mind, not only the fact that the desire to play that game, but at some point to demonstrate? You follow me? The little, I think I heard somebody talk about earworms just recently. That's like, when you hear a song and all of a sudden the song is over with, but 3 days later the song is still playing in your head. Well, think about it. If that's something that these young people are seeing, in some cases 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old, and they're constantly playing these games, constantly sitting there, with guns. I've seen these games, and some of you saw them too. And some of, again, you purchased these games. And these kids are sitting there playing these games and listening to this kind of music, watching these kind of hostile movies, watching these kind of hostile videos. You're saying, looking at a country that glorifies patriotism in terms of how our country go to other countries and just kill indiscriminately because we assume that some of these people could be a threat, whether they are or not. And we don't believe, or you don't think that these things, this culture is attributing to what happened the other day at that high school, then let me tell you, you're being very naive, or you're being intentionally dismissive. If you want, and you're genuinely, I'm talking to these people who feel like we shouldn't have guns. If you're going to take and you're going to talk about the whole narrative, if you're going to say, okay, we're going to be anti-violent games, we're going to be, games, anti-violent rap, anti-violent, music, anti-violent videos, anti-violent, TV shows, etc. then I say, okay, then then we got a conversation and we can have an intelligent conversation. But if you're going to single out one area and assume that because someone can get access to a gun and not address the drug, the opium stuff going on, heroin addiction going on, crack addiction going on, pharmaceutical drugs that are killing people, and all the things I've already named. Knives kill people, alcohol kill people. I mean, this thing can go broad, 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 and we're not going to address any of those things, and we're just going to single out, guns. Then I'm telling you, being very naive, and all you're doing is putting yourselves, ourselves, as a people at risk. Because if this government was to turn rogue, and I know no one believes that we'll do it, but you ask the Japanese in World War II what happened in this country with Japanese concentration camps. And obviously you look at the prison industrial complex, and as a man of color, when you look at, black men of color, 6% of the population and representing almost 45% of the prison population, don't tell me what this country won't do if given the power to do it, because you got a lot of unrighteous people in this country, and you got a lot of mean, hateful people in this country. You got a lot of bigots in this country, and you guys know it, and I know it. And so at the end of the day, guns are here, to help us defend ourselves when we need self-defense. And secondly, they're here for us to hold a government accountable in case that government decides, again, to go rogue, on the people, and so that the people can continue to be American citizens. Now, again, does that mean that we shouldn't have responsible gun control laws? No. We should have responsible gun control laws and gun ownership. But I'm telling you, even you guys who think we shouldn't have any guns, if you think that not having guns is going to make you safer, you're mistaken. We have laws against drugs and drug trafficking. We've been having these laws in place, since I've been on this planet, and it hasn't stopped illegal drugs from coming in here. You can get crack and cocaine and heroin and marijuana almost on any street corner in America. And all the laws that we got on the book hasn't stopped it at all. Just like prohibition. It didn't stop alcohol sales. They just found another way to circumvent the system. And I will tell you the same thing will happen with guns. But now, if that happens with guns, what happens if you can't protect yourself and you can't protect your family, or your loved one cannot protect you and the family? Then all of a sudden we're going to be revisiting these gun laws, and then I think we'll have a different position. So I say this, as a responsible adult, address it with the government in terms of what we're putting in front of these kids. As a responsible parent, you address it by what you're putting in front of your kids and what you're approving of and what you're not approving of. And if you want to tell your son or daughter that it's wrong for them to use, violent games and go to violent movies and use violent music, listen to violent music, then don't try to tell us as responsible gun owners that we shouldn't have any type of gun that we choose to own. Now, that's my position on it. I hope I respect your position on how you feel about it. I hope you respect mine. But more importantly, I hope you give it some good, clear, critical thinking. And I will tell you, just like George Bush Sr. was told, it's the economy, stupid. What I'm saying I'm not calling anybody stupid here, but I'm telling you, it's the culture, it's not the guns. All right. Thank you guys for letting me be on my little soapbox for a couple of minutes here, and hope you have a good day. Talk to you soon. Now DFG, Gideon's Flight. Peace. Love you guys. Bye.